What happens when a black courier, dismissed as invisible by the world around him, walks into the office of a powerful CEO, only to realize the man behind the glass desk is his childhood best friend? One delivery unearths secrets, buried loyalties, and a system built to erase men like him. But what if the one they ignored is the one holding the truth? Jalen Barnes had made that same left turn on East 42nd 1,000 times. He could do it blindfolded. That curve around the old gas station, the busted light pole with the faded sticker that read "Hope," and then straight past the glimmering skyline that rose like glass castles above streets soaked in sweat and struggle. He was 29, no wife, no kids, just wheels, packages, and playlists to keep his mind from eating itself alive. The van rattled over a pothole the size of a grave. He gripped the wheel harder. Tuesday was always the roughest day, not because of traffic or deadlines or that one office manager who acted like delivering toner was the same as sneaking into the Pentagon. It was because Tuesdays made Jalen feel the most invisible. He parked, slid the next package from the back. Name, Langston Holdings. Floor 43, Suite 4311, Corporate. He hated those runs. Everyone in those buildings wore ambition like armor, suits tailored to choke out any humanity. You held a box, they looked past you, said thanks without ever meeting your eyes. But he wasn't about to lose his job arguing philosophy with elevators. The lobby of Langston Holdings was a forest of marble and glass, polished so clean you could see your future in it, or your failures. Jalen walked past the security desk. No one stopped him. Courier uniforms were camouflage. He stepped into the elevator, thumbed 43, and watched the numbers blink like a countdown to nowhere. Ding! As the doors slid open, he was met with silence and a sea of glass walls. A receptionist with hair so precise it looked photoshopped nodded at him. Delivery for Suite 4311. She barely looked up. Conference room, down the hall, third left. He moved quietly, box under one arm, but his eyes scanning the space. And that's when he saw him. At the far end of the hallway, standing in front of a wall-sized digital screen, gesturing as he spoke to a team of suited execs, was a man Jalen hadn't seen in 15 years. Elias J. Langston. Same eyes, same gap in the front tooth, but now wrapped in a $3,000 suit and the weight of $1 billion empire. Jalen stopped. Time didn't. A younger Jalen flashed in his mind. Sneakers torn, backpack swinging, chasing down ice cream trucks with Elias on those hot Brooklyn afternoons. The boy who stood up for him when some kid called him a slur in 6th grade. The boy who disappeared one winter, moved away without a word, swallowed by the promise of some fancy school and a scholarship program. Now that boy stood behind a wall of glass and power, talking about quarterly growth projections like his life had never started on cracked pavement and dollar pizza slices. Jalen didn't say a word. He dropped off the package in the conference room, as instructed, turned, and started back toward the elevator. But then, Jay? A voice, familiar, disbelieving, like someone recognizing a dream. He froze, turned slowly. Elias was walking toward him, mouth slightly open, like he couldn't quite believe his own eyes. Jalen Barnes? Nah, no way. Jalen let out a quiet breath. Eli. Elias grabbed him in a tight hug before Jalen could react. Man, it's been... What? Since middle school? What are you doing here? Jalen glanced at his van through the glass. Working. Elias caught the look. Something shifted in his eyes. Damn, I didn't even recognize you at first. You good? Jalen smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I'm alive. Elias was quiet for a second, then laughed, too loud, like trying to fix the silence. Man, you gotta stay. Let me buy you lunch or something. We got a cafeteria on 41, chef's table. You'll love it. Jalen glanced at the time. I got 4 more stops, can't really... Forget the stops. I'll call your company. What are they gonna do, fire you? Tell them you got kidnapped by a billionaire? Jalen hesitated, then nodded. Why not? The executive cafeteria wasn't like anything Jalen had ever seen. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over half the city. Sleek white counters, plants that didn't fake it, and rows of artisanal water bottles chilled to perfection. The kind of place where silence cost money and smiles were calculated. Elias swiped a black card at the private counter, ordering 2 salmon miso bowls and fresh-pressed juices like it was nothing. Jalen stood awkwardly beside him, still wearing his courier jacket, still holding his scanner like a shield. They sat near the far window overlooking the skyline. So, Elias leaned forward, elbows on the table. Where you been, man? Jalen tilted his head. Delivering packages, paying rent, staying out of jail. You? Elias smiled, but it faltered. Yeah, I get that. Life's wild. Jalen stared at him. You disappeared, man. Just gone. We was tight. Then one day you're in some private school with marble bathrooms. Like you died and came back as a Wall Street ghost. Elias exhaled. My mom got me into this outreach thing. One of those programs for gifted urban youth. Their words, not mine. Paid for my school. Gave me a shot. A shot? Jalen scoffed. At what? Forgetting who you were? Elias blinked, caught off guard. I didn't forget, Jay. Jalen leaned back. You never even wrote. My mom thought you got adopted or locked up. Damn. Elias rubbed the back of his neck. That ain't what I wanted. I didn't know how to come back. The food arrived. Neither of them touched it. Jalen looked down at his hands, rough and calloused. Elias had the kind of hands that hadn't touched a mop in a decade. Jalen finally spoke. You ever think about the block? Morningside? Darnell? Reggie? Tay? Elias nodded slowly. Darnell got locked up. Reggie OD'd. Tay's in Jersey raising 2 kids on her own. Jalen's voice went cold. You know all that, but you still never came back? I send money, Elias said too fast. Oh, Jalen smiled without warmth. So that's what we are now, a GoFundMe memory. The silence between them thickened. Then Elias leaned forward. You think this came easy for me? You think walking into boardrooms where no one looks like you, where they call you well-spoken like it's a surprise, is easy? Jalen didn't flinch. No, but it sure came quiet. Elias looked away. They sat like that, not talking, not eating, while people passed by and glanced at the man in the courier jacket seated with the king of the building. Finally, Elias broke the silence. You want to know why I really brought you up here? Jalen didn't answer. I didn't just miss you. I need you. Jalen raised an eyebrow. Oh, really? For what? You need a delivery guy to remind you of your roots? No. Elias met his eyes. I think someone's stealing from my company. And the way it's happening, it's someone from the inside. Someone smart. Someone with access. And nobody here's going to talk to me straight. Jalen stared at him. And you think I got answers? I think you're the only one who knows how to smell BS. You were always the one who saw what the rest of us missed. Jalen folded his arms. So, let me get this straight. I show up with a box of copier ink and suddenly I'm Sherlock Holmes? Elias smirked. You always hated cops. But you never let anything slide. You had principles, Jay, even when we were kids. Jalen stayed silent. Then, quietly, You still talk to your father? Elias froze. His father was legendary on the block, loud, crooked, and cruel. Jalen remembered nights Elias showed up at his door with bruises and lies about falling off his bike. No, Elias said. He's dead. Jalen nodded. Then maybe you do need someone who knew the real you. Elias leaned in. Will you help me? Jalen looked at his half-eaten miso bowl, then back at the skyline. Depends. On what? Jalen turned to him, voice low. On whether this is just about your company, or finally facing who you left behind. Later that night, Jalen sat on the worn-out edge of his mattress, staring at the polished silver security pass Elias had handed him. It gleamed like something alien in his hands. Temporary staff, level B clearance, it read, with a time-stamped chip embedded beneath the plastic. He set it next to his cracked phone and looked around the room. Same walls, same flickering bulb, the ceiling still water-stained from the last storm. And now, a key to a world he never imagined touching again. Jalen lay back, arms crossed behind his head. He wasn't doing this for Elias, not entirely. There was something sour in his gut that hadn't gone away since that cafeteria. Elias might have gotten out, but Something about the way he looked at Jalen, like a relic, like a reminder, made Jalen want to tear off the suit and tie mask and see what really lived underneath. The next morning, Jalen walked through the Langston Dynamics front entrance. Not with a package, not through the delivery dock, but through the main doors. Reception watched him approach. Her smile faltered when she saw the pass. He was cleared, just not expected. "Can I help?" "I know where I'm going," he said, passing through the turnstile. The elevators gleamed like spaceships. Inside, everything smelled of citrus and control. When he stepped out onto the 27th floor, risk management and internal ops, the air changed. It was cooler, tighter. Desks lined up like soldiers. Everyone typing, clicking, whispering. Jalen moved slowly, taking it all in. The rhythm here was different. No yelling, no chaos, just money and masks. He found the glass-walled corner office Elias had mentioned and stepped in. Waiting inside was a woman with short platinum hair, black glasses, and an expression that could freeze fire. "You must be the courier," she said. "Jalen," he replied. "Not the courier today." She arched an eyebrow. "That's a matter of perspective." She didn't offer her name. Elias walked in a second later. "This is Rhea," he said, "head of compliance." She didn't blink. "I handle internal risks. I prefer to identify problems before they make headlines." Jalen smirked. "Sounds lonely." Rhea gave nothing back. Elias gestured to the tablet on the desk. "This is where it starts. Weekly reports, access logs, shipment manifests, and the security audit from last quarter." Jalen flipped through the screens. It was clean. Too clean. Like someone had already wiped the fingerprints. "Who had admin access last week?" he asked. Rhea pulled up the list. A few dozen names. He scanned until one stood out. Bianca Tate. Jalen tapped it. "This one. She accessed the supply chain database 3 times in one day." "That's not abnormal," Rhea said flatly. Jalen didn't look up. "Unless she was on leave that week." Rhea's eyes flicked toward Elias. Jalen kept reading. "And here? She downloaded a manifest at 2:43 a.m.? No other logins in the system at that time." "That shouldn't have been possible," Rhea murmured. Elias stepped forward. "Bianca's been with me since the beginning." "People change," Jalen said. "Or they adapt, especially when nobody's watching." Rhea's lips tightened. "We'll look into it." Jalen turned to Elias. "I'm going to need more than this. Unfiltered logs, physical access reports, and someone to walk the warehouse floor with me." "You're serious about this," Elias said. Jalen looked at him hard. "You pulled me into this. Now let me do it my way." Elias nodded. "You got it." As Jalen left the office, he passed rows of blank eyes, designer clothes, and quiet judgment. But none of it fazed him. He was used to being underestimated. Down in the loading dock, he met Kareem, a lanky warehouse manager with a tattoo of a phoenix on his neck. "You from up top?" Kareem asked. "Nah," Jalen said. "I'm from the bottom. That's why I see the cracks." They walked through crates, scanning logs, talking to floor staff. Jalen kept his eyes on the details. Timestamps, missing inventory, patterns that didn't match. Then, near the east wall, he spotted something strange. A crate labeled Prototype A6 with a fresh seal. But the manifest showed it was never scheduled to ship. And inside? Nothing. Completely empty. Kareem paled. "That was logged as secured." "Yeah," Jalen muttered, "by someone who knew no one would check." He took photos, logged the crate ID, and stepped outside for air. The sky above was silver with clouds. Thunder rolled in the distance. Jalen lit a cigarette he hadn't touched in months. Something was rotten at Langston, and whoever was behind it wasn't just stealing. They were making it look like no one had ever been there.